Hello everyone, good evening. Welcome to Chris's memorial, to the memorial of a very special person in all our lives gathered here today. We gather at a beautiful spot to celebrate a beautiful person's life. We gather at the end of the day as we watch the sun set on today and as we reflect on the life and the joy and the sun and the shine that Chris brought to our lives. It is a day where rain has fallen, and rain cleansing this place, but cleansing and inviting Chris into this next part of his life. I want to begin acknowledging that we're here today sharing and gathering on the land of the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and we honour their spirit and their connection to this place. And we invite that spirit to be present here today and to know that Chris is connected to that deep spirit here of this place today. So we are connecting in strange times today, and this is why we know we are gathered where we're honouring this social distancing, where we are recording for family and friends who can't be here. So I also would like to welcome the Barden family. We invite and welcome our musician friends. We also honour those present, but also online with Judith, Chris's mother, Stephen, his father, his brother Simon, and we acknowledge the wider Hargreaves, Cook, Leek family who can't be here today. So we may experience some technical difficulties. We don't have Chris here to help fix it for us. So we'll just go with the flow of who are and who we're gathering, honouring this beautiful, beautiful person. So we chose to meet here because Chris was an active part of the Labor Party, and some of you will know, and his grandfather Bob Hargreaves was a great union leader. So for many years this area, we're in the Curtin electorate, was represented by Labor Prime Minister John Curtin. So like Chris was also an import who came over to Western Australia from the east. So we're honouring that by gathering here today at this place. It's a real honour to be here today. I met Chris when he first came to Perth, and it was at a Labor Party meeting in the North Perth branch, and we instantly hit it off. We were both people who were passionate kind of social justice, believed in this Jesus, the radical kind of person who made a difference in the world, and that connection grew. My mum was just telling me last night, I'd forgotten that there was a period when Chris was in between accommodation where he lived with my family, with my mum actually, for a period of time. So it's a real honour to be here. So I'm going to begin with a short prayer, bringing to mind. Loving Creator, we thank you for this moment and for the life of Chris. We gather here today as family and friends of Chris, bringing to you our grief and our pain and our sorrow that Chris has left us too early. At this time, we ask for strength to open our hearts to remember Chris today, to have endurance for this hard time, and to give us the ability to stand with hope, knowing Chris would be here to want to wish us well, and that he truly lived his life following your commandment to love your neighbour. Source of life, hear our prayer. Amen. So, as many of us have never, some of us may not have met each other, and we all have different parts of this story that we have with Chris, and we would like an opportunity for us to share some moments. What is a memorable moment that we have of Chris, and when did we first connect? What was it that made us connect with him? So what we're going to ask to do in a second is we're going to be moving groups so we can move around and meet the other people who are gathered here today. And thank you for those that are sharing online as we are gathering. Many of us know that the Labor Party was a significant part of Chris's connection when he came here to Perth, and his involvement and his passion for justice. So I will be inviting Paul Benson, a dear friend of Chris's, to be sharing some reflections.
I was going to read this out at a meeting of the Labour State Executive, but as with so many other things in our lives at the moment, those meetings are on hiatus. But the reason why I'm sharing my grief today hasn't changed. We all share that grief. His family, his girlfriend Ray, her mum Lisa, his friends Elroy, Phil, Jack, Beck, Simon, Michael, Jess, Vicky, and I know I've missed some, and I'm sorry about that, but you know who you are, and even if I don't know you, we are still united in our grief. I've spent more than a few nights worrying whether I can say what I really want to say, because by talking about Chris, you have to talk about Chris's difficulties in life, and people might think I'm politicizing his death. But knowing him, a guy who could turn eating a bowl of cereal into a convoluted metaphor for the drawbacks of the market economy, I don't think he'd actually have any qualms about that. So here's the simple truth about my friend. He never got the breaks he deserved. He never got the breaks, and he wasn't appreciated nearly enough for who he was and what he could do. None of his health issues should have been a barrier to his ambitions. He was intelligent, creative, and multi-skilled, and there should have been opportunities everywhere he looked. He shouldn't have been approaching 30 without ever experiencing secure work and a decent wage. And it wasn't fair, and he knew it, and he wanted to change it. And because he didn't just want to change it for himself, but for everyone, he threw his lot in with Labour. His issues, secure jobs, freedom from discrimination, decent and affordable health care, are our issues. And that's why he threw himself into volunteering in Mount Lawley and Balcatta and Stirling and Kingsley. His health sometimes got the better of him, but whenever he could, he poured his heart and soul into Labour because he believed we could make the world better and fairer than he found it to be. And that's why I liked him to begin with. And as our friendship developed, I got to appreciate his kindness, his thoughtfulness, his intelligence, his humor, his nervous energy, his obsession with dogs. He can never just walk past one. And my God, his ridiculous conversation starters. Like when faced with a choice between saying hello or giving you a 15-second hot take on WA's economic relationship with China, there was only one option he was ever going to take. And those qualities, all of them, the good and the bad and the completely infuriating, are why he became such a good friend, and why I and so many of us here will miss him so much. Chris told me quite recently that he was a, quote, recovering Christian. So I'm not sure if he believed there was a place we go when we die. But I promise you, if there is a place we go, and if for some reason that place isn't fair, it will be when Chris Hargreaves is finished with it. I'll miss you.
Thank you, Paul. In the last couple of days, I've had a real honour to have conversations with both Judith and Stephen, Chris's mother and father. And today I have some words to read on behalf of Judith, Chris's mother. You mostly know Chris as a man. So as his mum, I want to give you a picture of him before you knew him. I was hesitant when I was preparing this to put too much about Chris's health because he hated being defined by it. But I wrote, I really felt that it has shaped him, and his understanding his life's journey, you would only respect him more. Chris spent his whole life tormented by itching. It started only a few weeks of age, and his skin was rarely clear of it. Eczema was closely followed by asthma, and too many allergies to list. It was around the age of 9 that Chris had his first anaphylactic reaction. Raising Chris was a daily battle to keep him as well as possible. His food was closely monitored and carefully prepared. His environment was tightly controlled. Medications and treatment were a daily routine. Within all those restrictions, every effort was made to make his life as normal as possible. Chris and I were bound together. I went with him everywhere so he could do things, and he went with me everywhere so I could do things. But it isn't about me. How does a boy grow up normally with his mummy always there? I do not recall one moment when he was embarrassed or ashamed that I was around, even when I had to go on the occasional school excursion. He was the most amazingly loving, caring, and happy little boy, always smiling and ready for cuddles, and forever absorbing everything around him. When his brother was around too, Simon was afraid of storms. So when one was brewing, Chris knew the routine. I would let Chris know what was going on and put a movie or something on for them. And then Chris would cuddle up with Simon on the lounge and distract him and just be with him till it passed. They were normal siblings, and in later years went through the stages of disagreement and fighting, and Chris did try to strangle Simon one day. From a very early age, it became clear to me that Chris was hungry to learn. He was very frustrated by the limitations of being a baby and a toddler. I taught Chris to read as soon as I could. When he grasped reading, he was finally free to learn new things as fast as he wanted. Thank goodness for books, and later on the internet, because I couldn't keep his hunger for knowledge. He never stopped soaking up information. Starting school had new challenges. There was no carefully dust-free, low pollen environment, so managing his level of wellness got harder, and Chris was still frustrated by his hunger to learn. I feel that infants and primary schools definitely shaped Chris to be the beautiful individual that he was. Sadly, he was bullied for being different. They called him Disease Boy. But Chris, being the amazing, strong person that he was, took from this that you were judged unfairly, no reason. And so his response was just to be himself with no apologies. His self-esteem was so great because he was one of the top 2s in the year. One of my favourite memories of Chris at primary school was probably year 3 or 4, when in a computer class they had to share. No one would share with Chris, so he sat in front of a computer that wasn't working and he fixed it. The teacher was amazed because several computer class teachers had tried to get it working and they failed. He didn't have to share with anyone that day. In 6th class, he accidentally sat on the wrong chair and someone made a big thing about how the person couldn't sit on his seat now without being infected. Chris responded by moving from seat to seat. That's my boy. High school was much better. Chris was accepted to a selective school. On orientation day, Chris met people who were just like him. I remember him coming home to me with a big smile and telling me that they were all the same, that they all had similar experiences in primary school. Finally, Chris had found his people. High school was better for Chris. As Chris got older, he could be more responsible for his own health. But in Year 9, he missed about a quarter of the school year with illness. This affected his results, but unfortunately, with his amazing ability to learn, he was able to keep up, even at a selective school. He could have gone straight onto a disability pension, but he chose to be a contributing member of society. He wanted to be more. He never wanted to be limited by or defined by his health issues. He went to uni and studied chemical engineering and dabbled in other areas. He enjoyed his music and got on with his life. He did interesting things like live with Jim, who I think he met at church. He was an elderly widower, and I believe he'd lectured at uni in chemical engineering. It was Chris's job to cook dinner. Sometimes they entertained guests and set a beautiful table and had great conversations. They played chess and enjoyed discussing many things. They talked about the share market and how Jim had managed his money. I think it was Jim who moved Chris towards understanding economics. Jim was a beautiful man who was both friend and a mentor to Chris. They remained friends until Jim passed away a few years ago. I believe Jim had a great impact on Chris, growing into the wonderful man that you all know. Through all of this, Chris and I remained very close, and eventually he needed to come back home. Unfortunately, as we do in life, what happened was that Chris went backwards and I fell back into letting Mum look at everything. It's hard to change that. I confess I was in my 40s when I realised that I did the same thing whenever I visited my own mother. Chris was in a rut and I was exhausted and frustrated. Neither of us liked it. It was a difficult time for Chris and me. We needed to redefine our adult relationship. It was one of the reasons why he ended up moving to Western Australia. The other reason was that a doctor who was a long-time friend suggested that Newcastle was very high in allergens and Perth was probably the lowest in Australia, and moving could be the answer to some of his relief with his allergies. Needless to say, he was off. It was a great decision. His health was better, and with less environmental allergens, he could eat more foods that would have previously been off limits. And another bonus was that he could enjoy beer. Oh, and bacon. In case you don't know, Chris loved bacon. He met an awesome woman who he loved and adored, and Ray loved him right back. If you ever saw the way they looked at each other, you couldn't miss it. As a mum, I couldn't ask for anything more than someone to see my son with all his awesome weirdness and just love him for who he was, like Ray does. I could go on, but I will finish up by saying of Chris that on an individual level, I have learned so many people speak of how Chris cared for, supported them as a friend, both emotionally and practically. I am so proud of him. He saw the problems in the world and chose to pursue politics to address them. The world of politics gave him an intellectual outlet, a forum of discussion of ideas with individuals who agreed and disagreed, who understood or didn't, and an avenue to make a world a better place. Chris, I love you. I miss you, and I am so proud of the man that you became. I would now like to read some words from Stephen, Chris's father. I have always called Christopher, or Mr. Christopher, or Mr. I always called him Cheese, or Mr. Cheeseman. And he would give me these hilarious but derogatory stares, but with a grin. Like me, Mr. Christopher has battled through life, and he has fought long and hard, and he never really complained. He could be asked, "How are you?" and he'd always answer, "I'm fine." Mr. Christopher detested bullies and injustice, and he believed that everyone should get a fair go and be listened to. From the age of 12, Mr. Christopher has been smarter than me. Before high school, he would ask me questions. And in high school, from early year 7, he would walk up and start to ask a question and then say, "Nah, don't worry about it." I have long admired Christopher's intelligence, his natural gifted musical ability, and his appreciation of music. He is one of the smartest people I have ever met. And for me, he was not arrogant about it. I was often amazed at what he was doing. Tuning a piano, replacing the reeds in a flute, setting up drums and a guitar microphones, and putting the instruments through their paces. And a few hundred people watching him, and he was oblivious to the crowd. I will mention the loves of his life. Christopher negotiated a peace accord between Miss Ray and his beloved BMW cars. It was a very thin line, and that the cars did not break, for the wrath of Ray could be heard on the East Coast. I love you, Mr. Christopher. Live long and prosper. The final words that I have to read out today are from Ray, Chris's girlfriend. Thank you, Ray, for being. So Chris and Ray's story began in 2017 when they first met and had an instant connection. Their love blossomed, and over the next 3 years that they spent together, they created many wonderful memories. One of their favourite things to do together was going to the zoo, which happens to be where they had their first date. And on this day, Chris asked Ray to officially be his girlfriend. Their story went on from there, attending many events together. Chris had a running joke about Fleetwood Mac concert that they went to, renaming the band Fakewood Mac after Lindsay Buckingham was replaced. They would often get together with their friends and have games nights. Chris and Ray were known to be very competitive. Those nights were filled with laughter and lots of fun. had a great love of coffee, and he was on the quest to find the perfect Perth flat white. Ray would often make Chris his morning coffee, as he was not able to function properly without a caffeine hit. Chris had a passion for music and fixing musical instruments, and would often be humming around the house. Ray and Chris often joked with each other about how they were going to be aging in their personalities, as they both had a love for old music and quiet afternoon quizzes. Chris and Ray had their life planned. This included picking out names of the dogs they would adopt: Buddy, Chandler and Turbo. They spoke about one day getting married at this beautiful venue Chris had chosen. And they'd also hoped to have children one day. And they would continue to make many wonderful memories filled with fun and adventures. Ray and Chris loved each other dearly. Chris will be greatly missed by many. And Chris was a wonderful, quirky addition to Ray's family. And he will be forever in their hearts and their memories. Ray would like to thank everyone for helping us to celebrate the life of Chris.
So suddenly
Today was just one way that we could honour and remember Chris's life. But each of you will continue to do that in different ways on a regular basis. You may come together again at moments of anniversaries to share, to remember, and to tell those stories to each other. There has been some photos, images, and some mini movies being prepared by friends and family that will be shared with all of us gathered and those online. And we will continue to share this for everyone. So thank you for everyone gathered here today, and thank you for all those online. And thank you, Chris, for blessing our lives.
to me, but I'll sing it instead. I hope you can hear it. I can feel you in the room where we used to chill. You left so suddenly, I wish I could see you. And you went away so suddenly, I couldn't get you to stay. You went through the gates, through the mist, and I wish I could tell you one more time what you meant to me, but I'll sing it instead. I hope you can hear it. And you went away so suddenly, I couldn't get you to stay. You went through the gate. through the mist. And I wish I could tell you one more time what you meant to me, but I'll sing it instead. I hope you can hear it. But you ran away so suddenly, I couldn't get you to stay. You went through the gates, through the mist. And I wish I could tell you one more time what you meant to me, but I'll sing it instead. I hope you can hear it.